As you know, if you've watched this channel with any regularity over the years, I tend to like to play battleships that are more mid to long range sniping ships. And, I tend to play a little bit more passively than maybe some people would prefer. But I always like a good, aggressive, well timed push that turns the tide of the battle. And that's essentially what I've got for you today in the legendary tiered German battleship or battle cruiser Schlieffen. I believe this game came from one of my recent streams, and I just haven't looked at it again to publish it on YouTube. But with the new update coming Monday, if I don't get this thing published now, it's never going to get published, and I think this is a good game to watch if you haven't seen it. It's on the relatively new map Loop, and of course, we've found ourselves in the center spawn, which is not ideal. I think in a battle cruiser like Schlieffen, which, is relatively poorly armored, it's got overmatchable bow and stern, it's got a nice icebreaker, though. It just doesn't have a lot of HP, 76,100. It's not the kind of ship that you could, for example, push straight into the center of a map and hope to have success, even though a lot of German battleships will do that. Or more likely, they'll sit in the back for about 10 minutes of the game and push in the final 5 minutes when everything has been decided already and they can't really make a difference. I think one thing to consider, if you do enjoy aggressive battleship gameplay, particularly with brawlers like Schlieffen, is you want to pick the location and the timing of your push carefully. Obviously, you don't want to sail straight into the center of the map because there's going to be enemies, in this case, near the Alpha and the Charlie caps. And if we push into the center, then we're going to get shot at from multiple angles and be caught in a crossfire. So, what we wanted to do was pull up as close to the Bravo cap as possible, especially since the friendly Shimakaze decided to enter it. And by doing that, we would be in a position to help support him if he were to spot any enemy targets, which he's not doing because, well, doesn't seem like any enemy targets are there. So I think what's going to happen now is Shimakaze is going to secure the Bravo cap. It's going to remain in blue hands for a time, and then he can move on to preferably the Alpha cap, where we have no destroyer presence, but we do have a lot of other ships hanging around. Battleship and two cruisers, it looks like. Our ultimate goal is to use the islands surrounding the Alpha cap to help us in our approach toward the enemy team. The islands, well, a lot of people think they're only for cruisers to camp behind and HE spam your stationary bow tanking battleship. Their only purpose, I suppose, to that sort of thought process would be to annoy battleship players and make them go to the internet forums like Reddit or Discord or even my YouTube comments section to rant about how overpowered and uncounterable HE spam is. Of course, to that I've always said, you've got an engine and a rudder, you should probably consider using it. And we are going to use our engine and rudder to get closer to this Preußen and whatever other battleships are on this flank. We've got Dalian out there spotted, undoubtedly smoking up, so we're going to lose vision. And I think we're far enough away that we can go dark. Preußen out there is going to be broadside to us, so maybe we'll get a good salvo on him before he goes around the island. Looks like he's going to take a face full of deep water torpedoes, too. He's about to be well on his way back to port, I think. Do we send him there with that salvo? No. Disappointment from Schlieffen main battery guns. Only 10,000 damage done up until this point, but don't worry, there's plenty more to come. We just need to get into close enough range that these guns have no excuse to not hit what we're aiming at. So we're dark now. I think at this point we can start turning in and approaching the Alpha cap, which is red. Obviously, it's occupied by that smoked-up Dalian. There are two enemy destroyers on the team. One of them was spotted near the Charlie cap, and the other one is spotted right now between Alpha and Bravo. We know he's not directly in the Alpha cap, so the only torpedo threat we've really got to worry about is Dalian. And he wouldn't be a torpedo threat if we could make our approach to that cap unseen, but we're spotted by one thing or another, maybe because of that fire. Or maybe Dalian is out of the smoke screen, I don't know. Fairly decent hit there on Venezia for 8k. Preußen is gone. Yamato out there is full HP. Venezia's hanging around. Dalian is as well. Based on all of this and all the intelligence data we've acquired, I don't think pushing up this flank is all that much of a risk. But in order to facilitate that, it's helpful to go around these islands, because then neither Yamato, Venezia, or Dalian can shoot at us. And you might tell me that the primary goal of the battleship is to tank or whatever, but just getting shot for no reason and no gain when you don't have to, I don't think that's all that valuable. Torpedoes coming around the corner, though. Schlieffen, of course, has sonar. I think it was just active, which is how we spotted them, so we do have to delay our push a little bit. But once these torpedoes pass, we can turn hard to port, and we can continue our approach to Yamato. There's Dalian out there, apparently leaving the cap. Maybe shots on him are possible. You can see that in the opening 6 minutes of this battle, we've done, practically speaking, no damage. But it's all one big setup for a glorious payoff, don't worry. The salvo against the Dalian yields nothing. Apparently we completely miss. Unfortunate. But take a look at Yamato, inching ever closer to the border of the map that we're approaching, broadside to our position, at least for the moment. He should know, based on looking at the minimap and seeing our last known location, that probably a Schlieffen is pushing in this direction, but I don't know that he's aware. He will be soon, though, and, this is the value of islands. Imagine this wasn't here, Yamato and Venezia could see us. Well, I don't think we have as much HP going into the close-up engagement with this Yamato as we currently do. We're about to be spotted now as Yamato turns bow in. For whatever reason, the rest of the friendly battleships, of which there are only 2, have both decided to come to the Alpha Cap. One is inside of it, broadside, or mostly broadside to the Yamato's position. Not ideal. And there's Venezia, who surely is wanting to launch torpedoes at us. Or maybe not. He might not even be paying attention. But he's going back to port now, with 3 citadels and a devastating strike. That's where these Schlieffen guns really shine. They're not the worst German battleship guns you've ever seen, but it's difficult to miss the majority of your shells at point-blank range like that. And just like that, we more than doubled our damage done total. Yamato is a very juicy target. He's losing HP, of course, to our secondaries and the fire from the 2 friendly battleships, but ultimately, we're going to do the lion's share. You don't want to take Yamato into close-range brawling situations either for that reason. We find the infamous cheek on the Yamato, shoot that, get a citadel, and then hit our torpedoes, and it all counts as a devastating strike. That's 2 devastating strikes on this flank with a well-timed push. And, you might be looking at the screen now and noticing that all of the caps are red. The enemy team has more ships than we do, including 2 destroyers. Both of our destroyers have been sunk because, of course, they have. But it's okay. We'll be able to turn the tide here, potentially. We've got all of our team in basically the same location. The only downside is most of us are battleships. However, the friendly cruiser is near the Bravo cap. Maybe not ideal, but since there's no battleship presence on this flank, now that we've eliminated Yamato, he probably doesn't have to worry too much about crossfires, and it's clear that he's spotted one of the 2 remaining enemy destroyers. Hopefully he'll be able to take him out. I don't know, based on how that destroyer is hugging the island, that he can actually get torpedoes on the cruiser, and the cruiser spotting him, well, at least one of our battleship teammates is going to have shots on that destroyer. So I would expect he actually goes down here pretty soon. Yeah, there he goes. It's the Seattle that's able to take him out, and it was a Delny. Bit interesting that he was that close to the island in something that can be an open water gunboat like Delny, but whatever. Don't question the enemy when they're making a mistake. Allow them to sink and go back to port. Seattle, though, well, he finds himself exposed in the open water center of the map, being farmed by the Dalian we saw earlier, who has left this flank and is not quite broadside enough to our location. The lead on that salvo, my gosh, not exactly great, and yet we still managed to find the Citadel and nearly finish off Dalian. I suppose Seattle will be able to do that, thanks in part to our assistance, which he does. We get a fist for our efforts, and for the first time in a while, we are ahead on points. There's only one destroyer left, too, which is good. Although I don't think we're ever going to see him again. There he is, sailing in our spawn. I don't know how he was spotted. Probably Seattle radar there. You can see he's activated it. But that destroyer is going to go dark, and I don't think we're ever going to see him again. Unfortunate, but there's two other battleships left on his team that we will very well be able to see. Approaching now the Bravo cap, which was initially in blue hands but has turned red. There's one of the two remaining battleships, USS Wisconsin, who doesn't look all that healthy. And then, what do you know, another Yamato who's at full HP. A very juicy target indeed. And Wisconsin, it's a very good ship, but it's also an Iowa hull, which I wouldn't really accuse of being the most tanky hull in the game. It's a lot tankier, though, if you miss all of your shells like we did there by not leading them properly. Wisconsin, his guns are nasty. They get a good hit on us, even though we're relatively angled. I suppose they can overmatch the upper bow. Yamato, on the other hand, bounces his shells. Always a glorious sound to hear whenever you've got incoming fire at your battleship. And Wisconsin is well on his way back to port. We'll finish him off. He needs to go in order for us to give broadside to that location so we can rush into Yamato. The only thing I don't know is where did that destroyer go? He might be lurking around nearby, ready to launch torpedoes at either me or the battleship that's still in Alpha and is about to leave it. But I suppose we can't really worry about that right now. We've got sonar going. If any torpedoes are incoming, we'll be able to spot them and hopefully dodge. We get the kill on the Wisconsin. That is our third kill of the game. And theoretically, if we ever spot that enemy destroyer, there is a Kraken up for grabs, but spoiler alert, it's not going to happen. Yamato, helpfully, puts himself in a position where he's got the island between us and him, so he can't actually shoot at us. I suppose he can shoot at our low-health battleship teammate, but maybe not. In fact, he's shooting at our healthier battleship teammate, which is good. We're going to be able to enter the cap, which we need to do. There's a little over 2 minutes left in the game. We are ahead on points, but we can't allow the enemy team to hold two caps and acquire more points than us per tick. So this is helpful. And Yamato is doing the standard tactic that you see most Yamatos do, which is, wait until the end, push in as far as you can, and then stop stationary and bow tank. Like I said earlier, the Yamato is not that good of a brawler, despite what people on the internet will tell you. You don't want to brawl when you've got a weakness like that cheek. And if you sit here bow tanking like this, it means you're stationary. You can't get away if somebody like Schlieffen pushes into you, except by reversing. And that's not really an effective way to increase the distance between your ship and the enemy, which is why I recommend kiting. The bonus to that is that you can get all the guns on target without necessarily having to expose flat broadside like this. Yamato is doing his best, probably to sink us. We've got torpedoes on the way, but of course he's given the broadside. So what do you expect to happen there? Well, honestly, I would have expected more citadels than that. That's kind of unfortunate. And obviously, we're a potato at launching torpedoes because that first set missed, and the friendly battleship next to us is able to get the killing blow on the Yamato, which, that's kind of sad. We could have been at over 200k in this battle. Turns out, the enemy destroyer decided to go into the Alpha cap. He did manage to take out that low-health battleship, so good for him, I guess. But it's a little too late. We're ahead on points still. There's less than a minute left to go. We'll be able to secure this cap, which will give us at least a couple of extra points as these final seconds tick down to just provide a cushion between the enemy points count and us. And there's no way they overtake 664 points and counting in the next 30 seconds. The only hope is that the Holland could somehow sink both of us with his torpedoes, but it's not going to happen. They do have long range, good speed, but they don't have great damage. So We turned the tide in this battle by carefully timing our push, using island cover to conceal it, and dealing the killing blow to two battleships that really are not well suited to brawling, namely Yamatos. Perhaps the Schlieffen's favorite target. I don't know, you tell me in the comments, but that's it for this battle. Patch notes tomorrow. Look forward to those. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I will see you next time, probably for the patch notes video. Goodbye.